Good evening, I'm Pinky Webb. Tonight we ask the questions, we tackle the issues, we clarify matters, and we get on point. The cry to curb corruption is strong. Those words from Ombudsman Boying Remulla, who vows to go after those responsible for the flood control scandal. Earlier this Tuesday, the Justice Department turned over to his office the findings of its investigation into the issue. What exactly did the DOJ uncover and what happens next? Let's get on point with Prosecutor General Richard Fadullon. PG Fadullon, good to see you again. Thank you so much for your time.
Hi, Pinky. Good evening to you and good evening to all your televiewers.
So it was today that the DOJ submitted its findings to the Office of the Ombudsman regarding these anomalous projects in, to be specific, if I'm not mistaken, so far the 1st District of Bulacan. If that is correct, sir?
That is correct. That is correct.
Why was Bulacan the first to be investigated?
Well, we had to sift through all the pieces of evidence and information that we were receiving from the National Bureau of Investigation. And we gave a directive that let's go for the low-hanging fruits, the cases which could easily be filed and then where we can easily present evidence. And these are the cases involving the ghost projects. So that was the target of the first batch of cases that were referred to the Office of the Ombudsman this morning.
I see. And you were saying that this is coming from the investigation of the NBI, that they did independently, or were also statements and revelations made during the hearings of both the House and the Senate taken into account?
Of course, we had to take into account the results of the investigation by both houses, the Senate and the House of Representatives. But on its own, having heard the testimonies given during the investigations, we opted to already begin our own investigation because eventually, whatever the results are of the Senate or the House investigation would be, it would still be referred to either the Office of the Ombudsman or the Department of Justice. So we decided that rather than wait for the results of the committee hearings, we opted to direct the National Bureau of Investigation to start looking into these cases. And as a result of which, we were able to get or secure evidence, documents that would be needed for the filing of cases involving ghost projects in the 1st District of Bulacan.
So, would it be right to say that the contents of the findings that the DOJ submitted to the Office of the Ombudsman would actually include already recommendations on who to prosecute?
Yes, that would be correct. It includes the names of the District Engineering Office of the 1st District of Bulacan. And this includes officials from the DPWH as well as some private individuals, contractors who are also involved in these ghost projects.
Were they identified already? I'm assuming, sir. Of course, they've been identified because you said that you had recommended, the DOJ's findings recommended the prosecution of these individuals. I'll go one by one, sir. So if we're talking about the DPWH First Engineering Office, this would be the BGC boys. We're talking about Bryce Hernandez, Henry
Yes, that's
Alcantara.
correct. Yes, that is correct.
Ilan po sila dun sa DPWH? Are they 5?
There's more than 5. There's more than 5 of them who are charged here. Like I said, there are 5 cases, but in each case, the number of respondents recommended to be prosecuted or be investigated vary. So there are about 10, no, for one case, but there are other cases which, like I said, include private individuals.
Okay. 5 cases, and you were saying that these would include the DPWH contractors. With the DPWH, sir, are you at liberty to tell us who they are? Because these are the ones that have been coming out. Henry Alcantara, Bryce Hernandez, JP Mendoza, and who are the rest, sir?
Well, Named also here would be RJ Dumasig, Bryce Erickson Hernandez, uh,
Okay.
Nino Morales, Juanito Mendoza, Florelyn Simbulan, and Christina May Pineda, Sally N. Santos.
I see. So kasama na po yung contractor. Si Sally Santos po is one of the contractors. Yung
That is
ginamit.
correct. That is correct.
I see. Okay. Among the contractors, aside from Sally, who were also recommended to be filed charges, sir?
For this batch, Pinky, only Sally Santos is included. This involves transactions that she had with the district engineering office headed by Henry Alcantara.
Wala pa po yung mga diskaya dito.
No, these are subject of ongoing investigations and further gathering of evidence by the National Bureau of Investigation. So we're still awaiting the results of this investigation. The NBI is working closely with our prosecutors in building up these cases. Sooner than later, we will have these cases also referred to the department and then eventually to the Office of the Ombudsman.
Very clearly, sir, you are saying that this is just the first of many cases that will be submitted to the Ombudsman. Sir, are there congressmen and senators, any politicians that were included in the 5 cases for recommendation for filing of charges?
For now, there are none. For now, there are none because we had to. The subject of this case is the reason why it's the first district of the district engineering office of Bulacan involves only projects that were undertaken by the respondents, and so far the evidence that we have points only up to the DPWH officials. We have not included and we have not included any proponent, whether it's a congressman or a senator, because no evidence has been presented thus far. It's so far as these 5 cases are concerned. But of course, we're not precluding the possibility of having more respondents, no, in the upcoming cases that will be filed.
PG, could you kindly explain to us the process by which this will proceed? Because if we take a look back, there was also the DPWH filing cases against possibly the same individuals, but I believe this was filed before the Office of the Ombudsman. And then you have the DOJ via the help, through rather the NBI, turning over documents also to the Ombudsman. And it's possible it could also go to the Ombudsman or also go to the Sandiganbayan. Can you just at least help us understand the process by which this will proceed?
Okay, cases which are cognizable by the Ombudsman generally would be cases where the respondents carry or have a salary grade of 27 and above. And this involves cases cognizable by the Sandiganbayan, offenses which are committed in relation to or in the performance of their functions. Now, if the question is why did the Department of Justice opt to refer the cases that were investigated by the NBI to the Office of the Ombudsman? This is for the simple reason that we among the charges would be cases or charges which would fall within the exclusive jurisdiction of the Sandiganbayan. And we wanted the Office of the Ombudsman, pursuant to whatever to the memorandum of agreement that we have, to take and be able to evaluate the cases that we are filing to find out if this would be a case that will be filed directly with the Sandiganbayan if in the event there is a reasonable certainty of conviction, or if these are cases which would be cognizable or referred to the second level courts or the regional trial courts. Now, I am not very particular about, I'm not sure of the particulars of the cases which were filed by Secretary Vince, but I do in fact know that there were cases that were filed much earlier. Malversation of funds were also was one of the charges, but I really do not know as against whom. But then again, there are quite a number of ghost projects. There are quite a number of cases which could be the subject of investigation. One of the reasons also why this is referred to the Office of the Ombudsman is for them to be able to go over the records to find out if there is no duplicity in the investigations or in the cases which are being filed right now.
Yeah, because I guess the Ombudsman, the Office of the Ombudsman, could be receiving complaints from different agencies of government. So if you were to submit, because you already did rather, the DOJ submitted it to the Office of the Ombudsman. This involves 5 cases for now of certain individuals. What happens after that?
Well, it will go through a process of evaluation whereby the ombudsman will, I think, get or check into the records because they would be the repository of cases that will be filed coming from, let's say, DPWH, the Department of Justice, probably the ICI. So it becomes incumbent upon the Office of the Ombudsman to check the records that they have to find out that there's no duplicity, like I said earlier. Now, as soon as they're able to ascertain that, then they can start evaluating the evidence that were submitted to them. And as soon as the evaluation is completed, the Office of the Ombudsman can opt to have the investigation, the preliminary investigation conducted by the personnel of the Ombudsman, or it can deputize the Department of Justice to pursue the preliminary investigation and determine whether or not there is evidence to indict the respondents in these cases.
I see. Now it's getting a little bit more, it's getting clearer for me understanding this because I guess the number of cases expected by the ombudsman on this particular issue. So ganun pala yon, PG. There are 2 options that the ombudsman can actually do or take. Either to by themselves conduct a preliminary investigation by the Office of the Ombudsman, or actually would that be the you use the word deputize
Yes, yes,
the
because
DOJ to
yes, because
conduct
the
the
Office of the
preliminary?
Ombudsman can deputize any government office like the Department of Justice, which conducts investigations to pursue the investigation under their directive.
Now,
Okay, so these cases are referred to us. We can start with the preliminary investigation.
I see. If it is referred to you, something that you already looked into, for example, and you conduct the preliminary investigation, this is where, as I know it, dito na po lalabas yung if there is probable cause or how the DOJ now wants it done, a higher level than probable cause, which is a certainty of conviction. Yun po ang mangyayari.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Janelle, what will happen would be if it is referred back to us or if the Department of Justice is deputized to conduct the investigation, we would begin the preliminary investigation process, and that would mean the issuance of subpoenas to the respondents to afford them the due process of being able to controvert or answer the charges filed against them.
And then, once there is certainty of conviction that will be decided by the panel of prosecutors from the
Yes.
DOJ, which you actually head, that's when that goes to what is called a full-blown trial.
Yes, it could result to an indictment. There are 2 options always, no? It could result to an indictment or it could result to a dismissal. If it is an indictment and it goes to the court, it could be either the second level courts, the regional trial courts, or it could be the Sandiganbayan
Yeah.
itself.
That's where also I wanted to clarify the issue. When does it go to the Sandiganbayan and when does it go to the regional trial court? If you are an officer of the government, it goes to the Sandiganbayan. Would that be correct, sir? And then non-officer, dun po pupunta sa regional trial court?
The distinction there would be if the officer has a salary grade 27
I
and
see.
above.
Got it.
If
Yeah.
the offense was committed in relation to or the performance of his official functions or duties, and that these are offenses which are actually cognizable by the Sandiganbayan.
That's
In
why.
this yes, in this particular case, where if for example the regional trial court would have exclusive original jurisdiction if the charges would not allege any damage to government, but in this particular case there is an allegation as in fact, no, of damage, as this involves a total these 5 cases would reach a total of about 430 million pesos, no, in projects. uh, That being the case, this would now be elevated, or if information would have to be filed, it would have to be filed before the Sandiganbayan and not the regional trial court.
I see. Even if, for example, PG, that there is an individual that is part of government who earns less than salary grade
27.
27, kahit na po mas
Yes.
mababa doon,
Yes.
sa sandigan din po siya lilitisin in the event that probable cause or, it goes into a full-blown trial.
Yes, it will still end up being with the Sandiganbayan, and also if it involves or includes a private individual, for as long as that private individual is charged together with the government official, it would still be within the jurisdiction of the Sandiganbayan.
What is the threshold, PG, aside from you earlier mentioned the salary grade 27, because you mentioned that the 5 cases involve about 430 million pesos. Is there a threshold by which you are looking at for these cases to be referred to the Sandiganbayan and not the RTC?
See, where the damage to government would exceed, I think, 8.8 million, no? If you're talking about malversation, and the penalty would be the maximum penalty of reclusion perpetua, then that would mean that the case would have to be elevated already or filed before the Sandiganbayan. Since the cases that were filed or referred by the Department of Justice to the Office of the Ombudsman, although it had varying amounts, the total of these 5 cases would reach about 430 million. Each case would not be less than 50 million,
Yeah.
at least, at the very least.
Yeah, which is tantamount to plunder.
Yes, yes.
So basically, that's one way to actually really look into this. That if you are being charged, please correct me if I'm wrong, sir. If you're being charged by a crime that amounts to something like 50 million, siguradong Sandiganbayan po ang pupuntahan. Tama ho ba
In
yun?
all likelihood, it would be the Sandiganbayan.
All right, we need to take a very short break. We'll continue our discussion with Prosecutor General Richard Fadullon when we return. Stay tuned. This is On Point. Welcome back. Still with us, Prosecutor General Richard Fadullon. PG, so I wanted to also do a follow-up on this turnover of findings to the Ombudsman. If the Ombudsman deems it necessary to gather more evidence against those that you are referring or recommending, rather, to prosecute, will the DOJ work with the Ombudsman to find more pieces of evidence and hence do a supplemental submission to the Office of the Ombudsman for the prosecution of the particular individuals?
Well, it could be that during the evaluation stage that will be done by the Office of the Ombudsman, they will find that probably there are other pieces of evidence that need to be secured. It has its own office, the Graft Investigation Office, that can do further investigation. Of course, if the department's assistance will be requested, the department, together with the National Bureau of Investigation, will most likely accede to that request and assist in the gathering of this evidence.
When does the issue of state witness come into play, and when will this be considered? I'll give you an example, sir. There is a recommendation to file charges against some DPWH officials, including one contractor, Sally Santos, if I'm not mistaken, who have been applying to become state witnesses. But because there is this recommendation to file cases against them, how will the DOJ sift through who among them will become state witnesses or not?
Okay. When one applies for state witness status, there are 2 ways of doing it. Well, in this particular case, considering that the cases have been referred to to the Office of the Ombudsman, and the list of names of those who should be indicted is already included, the only way for any discharge of a respondent or an accused to become state witness could happen during the preliminary investigation, and that would mean that they can be discharged as state witnesses. They will no longer be included in the information because they are admitted to the witness protection program. the other way of doing it is if, for example, they're indicted in court, there is such a thing as moving for the discharge, asking the court to discharge an accused because they would be standing as state witnesses or state witness for the government. This will be dependent on the information that they will be able to provide us. Definitely, it has to be information that we do not already have, and it has to be relevant, and it has also to meet the standard that the one applying for state witness status is not the most guilty
Right.
in the charges.
And PG, they're saying that there is a correction there all the time when you say you should not be, you should be the least guilty. But in fact, it's supposed to be you should not be the most
The most
guilty.
guilty,
Tell me the
yes.
difference between the two.
Well, if you say, when you talk about guilt, people always try to say that, well, I have very little, my participation, no, is minimized because of certain circumstances that are attendant to the time of the commission of the offense. Okay, so they would now try to give us information as regards the participation of others, excluding theirs. Okay. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean that if one has a participation, his participation is equal to the other correspondent. So it could be that in a conspiracy, there is one who acts as the actual assailant, who actually does the killing. There is one who acts as lookout. There is one who acts as a perimeter security. So if you look at the status of those three individuals, it would appear that the one, although they were part of the plan,
Yeah,
the one who did not take the actual part in the killing, no, could be considered as a state witness in that particular case.
yeah. But among the three, you said the killer. I think that's a good analogy, sir. The
Yes,
murderer,
the
the
murderer,
lookout,
the lookout,
and the other one was the.
somebody who's on the security perimeter, somebody outside of the
Okay, yung
vicinity
mas
of the
malayo
place.
dun sa lookout.
Yes, yes,
When you say the least guilty would be the one in the perimeter. But when you say the one who is not most guilty, it would be the two, the lookout and the one in the perimeter.
yes,
Would that,
yes,
okay. Okay,
yes, that would
got
be
it.
correct.
Kasi parang pag sinabi kasing least guilty, it minimizes it lessens or reduces rather the person that could be taken in as state witness. At least that's how I'm
Yes,
trying to understand it. Okay.
yes,
Um, how is the DOJ now? Of course, the WPP is under the Department of Justice,
yes, that is correct.
appreciating the individuals who are applying to become state witnesses. While I understand what you said, sir, that kailangan either, ang pagkaintindi ko po, tatagalugin ko, kailangan ma-indict ka muna, tapos ma-discharge ka bilang state witness, or bago pa ba ang indictment, pwede na hubang maging state witness?
Yes, pwede.
So dalawang paraan.
Dalawang paraan. During the preliminary investigation stage, habang yung kaso ay inimbestigahan, no? Pwedeng i-ascertain ng prosecution sa weight ng kanyang evidence, sapat na ba itong ebidensya ko? Ngayon, kung meron among the accused who would want to apply as state witness, they have to provide information which is relevant to the case, something which is not known or hindi pa alam doon sa kaso, at hindi nga sila yung pinakamay malaking partisipasyon. If that happens, they will be dropped from the information. No? They will be dropped from the information. They will no longer be charged, and therefore they incur no criminal liability. On the other hand, if you are the department can opt not to discharge anybody before the indictment. We indict all of them, but we can during the course of the trial determine if we need a witness who would be able to help the case or help strengthen the case. We can move for their discharge through the courts by asking the court to discharge them so that they
Got
can
it.
be utilized as state witnesses. But that's a more tedious process.
Yeah.
Now, you were asking earlier, how are we dealing with those applying for state witness status in the department right now? Well, we're evaluating their statements very, very carefully. Uh, Not everybody who is able to disclose or give one piece of vital information, it will not suffice to qualify one because there are certain details that will have to be provided as to why this particular person's name is included, all the circumstances surrounding his involvement, and one must actually reveal everything, he or she knows about the commission of the crime. You cannot simply provide or be selective in the details or the information that you provide. You have
Hindi
to
pwedeng
give,
selective.
yes, you have to give and disclose all the information that you know pertaining to the different transactions. In this particular case, we are talking about several projects, quite a number of ghost projects, quite a number of cases where the projects are substandard, and therefore it spans a period of, let's say, over 10 years. So there is no one witness who will be able to testify
Yeah.
about all those things.
Yeah.
That's why we opted in the department, okay, to try and compartmentalize it. Let's go for those which we can easily prove and prosecute. We start off with that, and then let's work our way back towards the other cases.
Interesting, because now that you mentioned that, if you discharge someone, I'll just give an example, sir. For example, si Bryce Hernandez, kunwari lang po, dinischarge niyo po siya he became eligible rather to become state
Yes.
witness in this, let's say in the 5 cases now that in the 5 recommendation for cases. But in succeeding cases, he's going to be charged again. What happens to a Bryce Hernandez who was first cases, but there were subsequent cases that were filed? Paano ho yun?
He, in that example that you gave, he is a state witness for purposes of the case where he was discharged. But this is not to say that he will be given blanket immunity, such that if there are other cases where he is found to be involved in, that he will no longer be charged or he can no longer be prosecuted.
I
There's no
see.
such thing. No, it would be very difficult to give any blanket immunity to any applicant who will be involved in several cases,
Okay.
because the circumstances in each case would be different, the evidence would be different, and the personalities who most likely will be involved are also varied.
How close are you to discharging anyone as a state witness?
We're getting there, but not quite yet, because we're still very dependent on the information which is being provided to us by the applicants for state witness status. And like I said, since it covers quite a wide range, a long period of time, and there's so many projects or transactions to speak of, it will be difficult to say that, okay, you
Yeah.
can be a state witness for all of these cases. Like I said, that's most unlikely to happen. We had to take it on a per project probably basis, or per transaction. So as we go along and as we file the cases, as we continue to investigate cases and we file cases, we will determine if there is a need for a state witness, and we will pick from those who will be able to help us get a successful prosecution.
PG, so far, who have applied for state witness?
So far as I know, there is Hedy Alcantara, there is Bryce Hernandez, JP Mendoza, uh, Yusek Bernardo
Yeah.
was among them also. And the Vizcayas are also among those who were the first ones to
Yeah.
come to the department.
I think pati si Sally Santos, sir, no?
Sally Santos, yes,
Yeah,
also.
also of Sims. All right. I wish we had more time, sir. Maybe just really very quickly, just an update on the issue on the missing Sabungeros, sir.
Okay, the missing Sabungeros case is already undergoing preliminary investigation now. The panel is continuing to receive evidence or counter affidavits of the respondents, but they have a deadline of until October 21 to do the same. We have received the submissions of some of the respondents, but like I said, we had to peg a period within which they are given a final opportunity to file their counter affidavits. Thereafter, we will evaluate if there is a need for a clarificatory hearing or if we can already proceed to resolve the case.
I see. So it could be soon,
It can be soon.
by November, maybe.
Well, we'll try our best to have it finished by that time. It all depends really on the submissions that we will be receiving on the 21st. So we have to evaluate it together with the pieces of evidence that
Okay.
rolled in one
To,
had.
to clarify, sir, as a last point, you're telling me that by more or less approximately November, there will be a resolution to the case of
Yes.
the missing
Yes.
Sabungeros,
Yes.
whether
That is
it
correct.
will go into full trial or not.
Yes, that would be correct.
Prosecutor General Richard Fadullon, sir, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Pinky, and nice to see you. See you soon again.
Thank you,
Thank you
sir.
to all the televiewers. Bye.
That's On Point. Join us again tomorrow, 7:30 p.m. here on BNC, the Billionario News Channel. I'm Pinky Webb. Thank you for watching.